Welcome to episode 1B of Is the Family Alright? The next morning, someone knocks on Tanner's door while he's still sleeping. His mother, Dabuta, comes inside his room and starts opening up his curtains and windows unprompted. He groans at the lights pouring into the room and sits up. He tells his mother good morning, and she asks why he's still sleeping till this time and shouldn't he be getting ready to go to school. He looks at the time on his phone and says he still has some time and will leave soon. Dabota didn't ask him where he went last night. He says he went to buy suya for Faith. He also told Faith to remain some for Dabota, but he doesn't know if she would do that. Dabota is unsure she would have remained some, but she leaves his room to go ask anyway. At the Altraide residence, Richard leaves for work with Lolia to drop her off at school first, while Data begs her mother to drop her off at her university. Susan agrees and they all set out. Her younger siblings, Emmy and Tammy, also go with them since they are on break from school and work part time at their mother's boutique. When they get to the boutique, Auntie Ada is in front of her supermarket with Kosi, her daughter. Susan and Auntie Ada are neighbors with their boutique and supermarket right next to each other. When Emmy and Tammy get down, Auntie Ada walks up to them and opens her arms to hug Emmy, who she calls her Agbani. At the nickname, Kosi and Tammy roll their eyes and snicker. Data then tells Kosi not to worry, that Kosi is her own Agbani, and they all laugh at that. Auntie Ada asks Susan where she's going, and Susan tells her she's taking Data to school and she'll be back later. Susan then tells Tammy that she better see him when she gets back and not playing football. He agrees, then Susan and Data leave. On their way to Data's school, Data tries to talk to Susan about something. She's hesitant at first until Susan semi shouts at her to spit it out. Data said that it's about her marriage, then tells Susan that she and her siblings are okay with the divorce, and it's not like they can do anything about it. Richard seems determined, but basically, they're not traumatized or sad about it. They've known for a while that their parents were not on good terms. She remembers talking to her siblings about it. The younger ones are excited for the double pocket money and provisions in school, and their older sister Faye doesn't care since she's already out of the house. She tells Susan that Richard will keep pushing her buttons until she agrees and to think and consider it. He'll pay her monthly, and Susan's business is also doing well. The kids are not small anymore, so they can all manage themselves. They can all chip in to take care of Lilia, and they have a house girl too. In 2 years, Emmy and Tammy will be in university. Susan just sounds frustrated and doesn't understand why Richard keeps doing this and messing up everything she's worked for. Data is on Susan's side, but she's also tired of all the back and forth with her in the middle and tells Susan she's officially washing her hands from their case. But they both need to sit down and talk about it like adults. Data gets to school and meets up with her friend Sarima. She says hi to Sarima's parents, who came to drop off something for their daughter. After that, they go off to eat and talk about plans for their final year. While talking, Sarima calls over someone and Data hastily berates Sarima under her breath for calling the person. It's Kester and he is happy to see Data. She's not happy to see him though. To avoid him, she tells him that they're going to look at houses off campus and will be walking a lot. But instead of that deterring him from following them, he wants to join them. She doesn't know how to brush him off, so they set off together. They meet up with an agent who takes them to the houses. At the Pepple residence, Tanner tells his mom he's leaving for school and asks her to call him if she needs anything. He says he'll be back during the weekend. She tells him not to forget to meet his uncle at the house. He asks her if they really need to sell the house, and she says yes. It's to prevent trouble down the road. He looks like he wants to say more but relents. She looks like she also has something to say and only speaks when he cajoles her. It seems like he pains her to say, but she tells him to tell her if he needs anything. But if he doesn't want to ask her, he should tell his uncle. He says it's fine, but he'll definitely ask if he needs anything. He then asks how she's coping and if she wants him to come home earlier, but she tells him she's fine and not to worry. He then turns her script on her and tells her to tell him if she needs anything or call her brother, his uncle, and she agrees. When he gets to school, he goes to his friend's hostel. His friend's name is Ejiro, and Tana asks him if it's really fine for him to sport with him for that year. Ejiro tells him to stop asking the same question. It's okay for him to stay there, but if you ask him that question one more time, he'll change his mind. They shake hands on it, and Tana plops down on Ejiro's bed and promptly goes to sleep. The first few days of school pass by with Data still house hunting, Tana going to class while hanging out with Adriel, and Richard constantly trying to talk to Susan, but to no avail. Tammy and Emmy are getting ready for boarding school to start. and they are buying provisions. They are at the supermarket next to their mother's boutique. The supermarket is owned by Auntie Ada, who is also Kosi's strict, overprotective mother. They are walking around the store with their list and pulling things from the shelf into their baskets. Kosi is also there, slyly telling them to get some things for her because her mother won't let her get those things for herself. She asks Tammy to get her something and he refuses. Then she threatens to report him for going to play football when Susan said he shouldn't. He finally gets the thing she wants. When Auntie Ada comes into the store, Kosi pretends she's doing something else. Data is in class with Sarima. Sarima is sitting on a desk, and Data is lying down on the chair with her head on Sarima's lap. Everyone is just since the lecturer isn't there yet. Ejiro and Tana enter the class, and Ejiro goes to sit by Sarima, showing her pictures on his camera. Tana goes to the other side of the desk and lifts Data's legs from the chair to sit down. Startled by the contact, she sits up and faces him. She says, "You scared me," and punches his arm. He fake cries that the punch is painful. She looks alarmed for a second and starts to apologize, but he laughs that it's not true. So she punches him harder this time. He's about to playfully retaliate when she squeals that she's sorry. A girl comes inside the class and goes over to Tana. She wants to sit by him, but he firmly tells her that someone is sitting there already. Data starts saying that there is no one sitting there, but he pinches aside and she stops speaking to warn him. He cuts her off and says, "Isn't Eddie sitting down there?" To which Data suddenly realizes that her friend Eddie isn't there yet. Tana turns to the girl and says, "Sorry, maybe next time," and she leaves. Data is now trying to call Eddie, but she isn't picking up. Dada asks Sarima if she has heard from Eddie, and she hasn't. They think she may not come to class since it's just still the first week of school, but then they decide to write her name for attendance anyway. Tana puts his leg on the desk to rest. Data is about to push it off when she sees the shoes he's wearing. She loves his shoes and wants to try them on. She offers hers to him, but he laughs that he'll widen her shoes. She doesn't care and keeps begging him to switch shoes. He finally relents and gives her the shoes, but before she puts them on, she suddenly says she hopes he washed his feet and that his shoe isn't dirty. He tries to take it back from her because it looks like she's not ready, but she laughingly retreats from him and tries them on. She loves it, then puts the other one on. Then she stands up to admire them well, while Tana puts her shoes on. But his feet are sticking out because of how small they are. As she's still standing, she sees Kester enter the class and immediately drops down to the chair and puts her head on Tana's lap to pretend she's sleeping. She drags his shirt to bring him closer so she can whisper in his ear. She frantically tells him not to let Kester sit there. As expected, Kester comes up to them and is looking for her. Tana is trying to hide her face in his shirt, but Kester sees her anyway and wants to pass by Tana to get to her. Tana stops him and tells him to go and sit somewhere else. Kester insists he has something to tell Data, but Tana says to tell her after class. Seeing that Tana isn't budging, he tries to go over to Ejiro's side to get in, but one look from Ejiro makes him go look for another seat. Tana tells Data that Kester is gone, but she doesn't get up. He removes his shirt covering her face and sees her eyes are still closed. So he uses his hand to turn her head to face him, then bends down, whispers the Kester is gone, and their eyes lock for just a second. Just then, Eddie runs in shouting that the lecturer is coming, and everyone starts frantically sitting up and getting ready for the class. Her friends wave her over to their seats, just in time as the lecturer walks in. This time, Tana lets Eddie in to sit next to Data. As the lecturer is getting ready to begin his lesson, Data gives Tana back his shoe, and he jokes that she's the one that eventually widened his shoe. While Data seems to be happy, Richard drowns his own frustration at his friend's house. Richard is at Morris's house drinking, and they're talking about Susan. Morris asks him what he'll do since Susan isn't budging. Richard says he'll probably just give up, but his friend is like, "No, you have to show her. She has been acting too big. Eh? Show her you're the man. My brother, you better wise up. Oh. If you just give up like that, nothing could change. And as things did like this, now she they run things for that house." Richard is quiet for a while, then asks Morris if he thinks they are doing the right thing or maybe they are being unreasonable. But Morris says, "No, I don't think you're being unreasonable. You've even tried to have a conversation with the woman, and she's not even trying to listen to you. Is this the type of life you want to keep living? Eh? Richard, listen to me. We are getting older and there is so much that the world has to offer. You can take my advice or you can leave it. But my brother, I know you. And me, I think you need a different type of experience, if you understand me." Morris ends his rant by wagging his eyebrows. Richard laughs, then says he may pay later for listening to the advice of a 50-something-year-old bachelor, but Morris's words have some truth to it. Morris slaps his back and tells him to trust him and that he won't regret it. Richard says he will come up with a plan and ponders the situation while holding up his cup. Finally, he drinks up and his face looks resolved. Morris then asks Richard to remember when they were in NYSC and someone tried to pull a fast one on Richard and how Morris figured out the person's intentions and helped him. The trip down memory lane moves their conversation to another topic. Susan is at her store doing some inventory when she remembers her conversation with Data. She's lost in thought and doesn't hear Emmy calling her. Emmy has to call her a few times, but she finally notices her. Emmy has some questions for her about their language or Krika. They are learning the language, and Richard gave them some assignments that are due that night, so she's rushing to get it done. While Susan is helping her, Tammy, Kosi, and Auntie Ada come into the boutique. Ada tells Susan it's time to go to the restaurant to reserve and plan for their church women's get together. Susan gets up to leave and Emmy starts panicking because she's not done. Susan just tells her to copy from Tammy, but Tammy tells her she has to say she loves him before he helps her. She tells him not to worry about helping her again and is about to leave when he relents and proceeds to help her. Cozy joins them and they joke that she's even better at the language than them. Data finally finds a house off campus that is the perfect price, but as she's about to pay, she gets a call from someone that something is getting sold soon, so she should come and get it fast. It's the sewing machine she wanted, and she has to get it now for a discounted price. She tells the landlord she'll be getting some money soon and can only pay part of the rent now, and he agrees. So she gives him part of the rent, then runs to the place and uses the remaining part of her rent money to buy the sewing machine. She calls Sarima and Eddie, gushing about her new home and sewing machine and how everything seems to have fallen into place. Tana is with his uncle and an agent as they finalize the sale of one of his family's house. Tana has a flashback of his family in the house and wonders if they are doing the right thing by selling it. And his uncle assures him that they are doing the right thing and his father would have wanted that too. His uncle tells him he is the head of the house now and should rise to the occasion of protecting his mother and sister. Tana says they still have prayer, but his uncle just shakes his head and tells Tana that this is not the time to act like a child. Tana looks sad and sick. After the sale, money is deposited into Tana's bank account, and as he's about to send the money to his mother, his uncle tells him to keep some for himself. He does that and sends the remaining to a bank account and calls his mother, telling her that he put it into his sister's account so that those people can't find it. His uncle also gives him some additional pocket money and tells Tana to call him if he ever needs anything. Tana heads back to Ijiro's room and finds Emeka there too. Emeka is Ijiro's roommate, but they haven't spoken since Tana stormed out of the bar that night. Tana looks awkward around Emeka, but Emeka acts like nothing happened. Emeka just says hi to him, which surprises Tana, but he doesn't think much about it and just goes to lie down. A boy selling stick suya comes in and people want to buy. People from other rooms come to their room and Tana gets some suya for him and Ejiro. Emeka jokingly tells Tana to buy for him, and Tana says he doesn't have enough money. Emeka is like, it's just 100 naira now. Then Tana is like, then you can buy it since it's not expensive and I really don't have extra cash. The other room boys start to say Tana is being harsh with his words over 100 naira, and instead, they all join their money together to buy their own suya. Although they've stopped arguing, the mood in the room has changed. Data, Sarima, and Eddie are walking on the road and gisting when Data gets a call. It's Auntie Ada, and over the phone, she's frantic as she tells Data to hurry up because Richard is about to cause trouble. Auntie Ada tells her to come to the restaurant Susan is hosting the church ladies. Data immediately runs off, leaving Sarima and Eddie shocked by her hasty disappearance.